Okay, this is Fusebox number 193, Tripping Point. And you better watch your step.
Yeah, because, that last step, that's a doozy. Hello, friends, and welcome in to this, the 193rd edition of Fusebox, skillfully entitled Tripping Point. And I am your walking a high wire while juggling flaming hatchets on a unicycle host, Marc Rose, and over there is the flame retardant master of the meters. You like that one? Milt Keynes, everybody.
Yeah, well, thank you kindly. So let me tell you, I've been doing some hunting and pecking, bro.
Yeah? Have you? What, are you going to get that 73 Seafoam Green Pacer to run finally?
No. I gotta say, now something wasn't really sitting quite right with me on this whole Ukraine thing.
Yeah. Well, folks are dying for absolutely no good reason.
Well, you see, that's what started to bother me.
Yeah?
Yeah. See, I don't think this horrible thing was as black and white as we're all being told.
Right.
It's really easy to just paint everything as good guys and bad guys, you know?
Yeah. Well, do tell.
Well, I just started to do a little research, and not from these crazy radical websites.
Oh, in other words, CNN, NBC.
No, man. I used government data, SEC, stuff from an outfit called FAIR, which stands for Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting. And I just wanted to see how the hell this thing got so batshit crazy out of control, and how all the fingers are immediately pointing to that dude in Moscow.
Vladimir Putin.
Yeah. Well, now, don't get me wrong. Fingers do need to point to this guy. He's no saint, and what he's doing and continuing to do on a daily basis to those brave folks in Ukraine is a war crime of epic proportions.
Yeah, I would second that for sure.
Okay, but here's the thing. We're being told, or at least given some vague impression, that it's all Putin. He's just a crazy guy, and he's lost what little of a mind he had left, and he's just making one of these Hitler moves.
Yeah, I know, but it really does look that way.
I know, but man, it just doesn't wash when you look deeper, bro.
Yeah? Well, please.
Well, now look, and I'm going to use a real nasty word here, so be ready. It has a C and a T in it, so...
Well, you know what? I don't think that name-calling is a...
Critical thinking.
Oh!
Yeah, well, you're always talking about this, so I use some.
Oh, holy carp.
Yeah, and man... did it clear the windshield off, bro?
Okay. So, please, enlighten us, Mr. Keynes.
Yeah, so it looks like 2013 to maybe 2014 was the real start of this mess. Ukraine had, in 2014, they called it the Revolution of Dignity, which threw out this guy, Yanukovych, who was elected in 2010, and he turned out to be a royal jackass.
Yeah, heard of him, and he was like a tyrant, evidently.
Yeah, it's kind of Ukraine's answer to the orange guy.
Ah.
Even though Yanukovych was 6 years before that other moron took office.
Yeah, it's got to be in the water.
Another would-be authoritarian. Lots of corruption in his government and a kind of weird coziness to Russia, which caused a divided country, as you might imagine. And yeah, the far-right jackasses here,
yeah,
they truly were bordering on Nazis.
Sounding more familiar by the moment, Mr. Keynes.
Yeah. So Eastern and Western Ukraine had very different ideas of what their country was going to look like after this here revolution. So the East, wanted to remain buddies with Russia, and the West wanted a more open deal with Europe and the U.S. Then enter the IMF.
Yeah, of course, the Impossible Missions Force. No, the International Monetary Fund, right?
Yeah, right. Whose stated mission, go ahead, look it up, is to reshape economies all over the world. Now, of course, these reshaping bucks that they give you come with a big balloon payment.
Yeah, we'd like you to do us a favor, though.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, all the green stuff in these deals comes from mega corporate money pools. And just to make it clearer, countries that didn't play ball with these guys, didn't get reshaped, well, Bolivia and Yemen both had disastrous coups take over their countries after refusing the help from these guys. That's something we used to call a visit from the economic hitman.
It's a very nice country you have there. Be shame if something should happen to it.
Well, it's not a secret that the U.S. has always been interested in sowing the seeds of democracy all over the place.
And that's freaking great.
Yeah.
Except what sprouts from those seeds is this sprawling vine that takes over everything. Okay, so you got this organization called the NED, and it pours about $170 million a year into organizations that defend or install U.S.-friendly regimes. Now, the Washington Post's David Ignatius...
Yep, heard of him.
Yeah. Well, he wrote that the NED does in the open what the CIA used to do in private, which is destabilizing governments and then installing these, quote, friendly regimes.
Friendly to whom, exactly?
Well, now, there you go. That's my point. To the oligarchy over here. And the last thing I want to say about all this, and then we can close this edition of Meet the Press, was during this overthrow period in 2014, the U.S. saw that as an opportunity to actually widen the stress points already forming in Ukraine.
Now, I do know that after the overthrow of Yanukovych, Russia annexed Crimea, right, which they just had a celebration about a few days ago, which was pretty crappy because by all accounts that I've read, that was actually illegal.
Totally, bro. The reason, though, was to secure this naval base away from the new Ukrainian government. And here's the thing. No stateside press reported on the U.S. involvement in this thing at all. As a matter of fact, most of these deals have been either modified or erased from the history of this thing completely. You got to go back to things that are like really old to find any of this stuff.
So, class, what have we learned from Mr. Kane's report?
Me.
Timmy?
That things are not always black and white?
That's right, Timmy. There's a million shades of gray in this deal. You got left-thinking folks aligning with extreme right-wing neo-fascists, all to topple an authoritarian idiot who nobody wanted. And in the fallout, creates this insane scrambling for control from not only within the country, but from outside Ukraine as well. And everybody seeing the possibilities for their own agendas.
And that's one hell of a mix of strange bedfellows.
And can I add just one thing?
Surely.
These recent pinwheel-eyed fruit and nut bags with their claims of Jewish space lasers, dead South American presidents involved in voter fraud, alien squid larvae in vaccines. I was kind of on board with that for a minute. But anyway, and all the rest of that pig wind, all it really does, besides make them look like morons, is create a contempt for a true dissenting opinion. Okay? Something we should not be ignoring. Even from the pinwheel-eyed wackos. When we start limiting speech, anybody's speech, we get into some nasty territory, and the Constitution, as you might recall, was set up to fight just this thing. Just saying.
Well put, Mr. Keynes. As folks know who have listened to this program in the past, I'm a fan of discourse and engagement. You know, I'm not going to blame privately owned social media companies who have restrictions or mandates on public policies for the content of their platforms. It's their show, right? It just leads me to wonder why there aren't more truly democratic sites out there, you know, promoting free speech.
Well, we could start with the fact that most of those, quote, sites have corporate benefactors who really have an agenda all their own, despite the denials of those sites. So, like I did, just follow the money.
Well, thanks for that report, Mr. Keynes. I'm sure many are even more confused now than when we started.
Just doing my part.
Well, we shall return to the progress of our program, returning.
No, now that's confusing.
When the right time comes, you'll understand.
It's a show for everybody, but not everybody will like it. TheFuseboxShow.com.
Well, welcome back, friends. And I would like to mention, as we change gears here a bit, that Fusebox is now being streamed on our newest addition to the ever-growing list of affiliates. Love that. Third Ear Radio, and it began just a few days ago and can be heard Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific Time and 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And you'll just have to get your slide rule and compass out to figure out the rest of those time zones like, Greenwich Mean Time or whatever. But if you're hovering around the 6 stellar nebulae of Behavioron 9, well, it's cocktail time for you.
Yeah, that's real-time, stream time, folks, not a on-demand kind of thing. Just like the good old days.
Yeah, just like being there. Or not. You can find a link to Third Ear Radio in the show notes, and I gotta say, man, that stream of theirs sounds fantastic. There's a good-sized bandwidth there, so nothing sounds crushed or compressed. Very nice indeed. So just go to the site and click the Player tab and listen in. They're going to have an app shortly, but in the meantime, push the button. Alrighty then. So, friends, I have a little tech geek moment here. Sorry, those not interested, well, you can fast forward. It's fine. Unless, of course, you're on radio. You're going to have to stick with me. So I took the plunge on this new Mac that got released a few weeks ago.
Oh, yeah, I was going to ask if that was a go. You know, because I know you were chewing the door jambs off waiting for this thing to be announced.
Yeah, ain't it the truth? Well, I have been using a Mac Pro for years. Now, I'm talking the cheese grater style one from the year 2008, right? Well, 2008/2009. I upgraded it internally several times over the years, but just recently hit that place that all legacy equipment, don't you love that term? Legacy?
Yeah, it means it's old, bro. Really old.
I know, but it worked so well, and you could tweak all sorts of components in there to just get the box dialed in the way you want it to be. And to be honest, most of the updated versions of the Mac Pro were just not practical. I mean, you couldn't upgrade with third-party stuff at all, like, video cards or whatever you were going to do.
Yeah, then they did that one a few years ago.
Yeah, and if you had a spare 6,000 or 7,000 laying around, you might get it close to what you're looking for. Yeah, not impressed, really, no. So I waited, knowing they were working on their own silicon. So I'm really glad that I did. Apple released the M1 chip in 2020, and then, just last year, back in October, they came out with the M1 Pro and M1 Max silicon that accelerated the chip far beyond its previous limits.
Well, you thought the box you wanted was coming out in October, yeah?
Yes, I did. And as did a lot of the Apple prognosticators out there on YouTube or wherever else. We were all very, very disappointed at that time. When that event turned into basically a laptop-only thing, well, the laptop folks, of course, were doing backflips, but for the rest of us, desktop users, we had to wait a little bit longer.
Well, I seem to recall a rather torqued-off demeanor, Mr. Rose.
Well, yeah. I mean, at the time, I was irritated. You know, it's about laptops again. Oh, great. I appreciate them. Hell, I have one. But I was just really hoping that I could get out from under this spinning beach ball nightmare that is my daily routine at present. As we all know, software keeps getting more and more sophisticated and requires more and more computer resources to support this wondrous functionality. And I got to say, some of this stuff is pretty wondrous. Truly.
But it paid off for you, yeah? I mean, the wait, I mean.
Yes, Mr. Keynes, it did. Back on March 8th, Apple announced and showed to the world the new Apple Mac Studio, which is similar in size to the Mac Mini, if you're familiar with that, but taller. It's actually like two Mac Minis stacked up on top of one another. It has all the ports folks like me require, as well as being blindingly fast.
You know, we always say shit like that, and then a while later, we're like banging our heads on the desk because it feels so slow.
Yeah, I know. I hear you. And I was just as guilty, frankly. But this truly is a game changer. The speeds and processing power of this thing will save so much time. It's crazy. I mean, if you just think about the time it takes to wait for some renders or some processing, you add all that stuff up, you're wasting hours. Seriously. Yeah, and I remember watching a video of a guy in a studio setting, and this was just running the new Mac Mini, not with the accelerated silicon, not the M1 Max or Ultra or whatever, just the regular one. And he had, in a typical audio workstation, he had 250 audio tracks loaded up with a bunch of plugins on each track and additional software instruments as well. So this is a fat session, okay? And then he pushed play. The thing didn't even blink. It just played all the tracks in perfect sync. It was amazing. And I've heard that exact same thing from folks that I know that have converted over. One cat actually sold his older Mac Pro and now runs the whole room from a Mac Mini. Crazy.
Well, and when do we start tearing things up and making room for it? Because, that's my favorite part, the tearing up bit.
Yes, I do know that about you. And it's a wee disturbing.
Just a wee, huh?
Well, in truth, a brontosaurus size disturbing, Mr. Keynes. Well, due date is somewhere between the end of March and April 6th. So we'll see. It's going to be a bit tedious, though, as I'm playing with the thought that rather than migrating the whole older system to this new system, I'm just going to do a clean install of only what I truly need to run and see how that goes.
Yeah, that'll be a process, bro. But like you say, that way it'll be clean and you only need to put back on it what you really use. So, maybe that app that creates exotic animal calendars, you might want to leave that one out.
Mr. Keynes, that's a most valuable and, dare I say, useful application.
Really?
Well, I use it after hours, to unwind.
Uh-huh.
And speaking of delusional thinking, it's time to take a trip down south. That's right, down there. Right down there to that area down there. To explore the logic from a decidedly different and clearly uncharted part of the brain.
Dateline, Spring Hill,
All right, hold on to your crack pipes, friends. So, police arrested a man after they say he called 911 and requested them to test his meth. Deputies with the Hernando County Sheriff's Office were dispatched to a home in Spring Hill, Florida, after a resident called 911 to request that a deputy come and, quote, test the methamphetamine he had just bought. When deputies arrived, they met with 41-year-old Thomas Eugene Colucci. Thomas said Colucci told the deputies he had purchased meth from a man he met in a local bar.
As you do.
And believed it was actually bath salts after using some of it.
Oh, holy carp. Well, thank God he didn't take a bath in it.
Well, he would have been springtime fresh, Mr. Keynes. Police said Colucci told them he was an experienced drug user and that he had used meth before and, quote, knew what it should feel like. He then produced 2 small baggies, each one containing a white crystal-like substance, and handed them over to the deputy, according to the sheriff's office. Police said the substance did not provide the sensation Colucci was expecting, which is why he called 911. Colucci told the deputies he wanted his meth tested because he did not want other people to purchase, quote, fake meth from the man who sold it to him, adding that he wanted deputies to, quote, put the person in trouble, end quote, for selling dangerous drugs. Police said he was unable to provide a name or contact info for the man who sold the drugs to him.
Well, what a considerate guy. Clearly delirious, but considerate.
A deputy performed a field test on a sample of the substance from each of the baggies as requested. Both baggies tested positive for methamphetamine.
Fancy that.
Yeah. The deputies, of course, then placed Colucci under arrest. He was put in the back of a patrol vehicle and then taken to a hospital after he began complaining about chest pains. He was later cleared and released by a doctor.
I think it's just the heat down there. I don't think the drugs have much to do with it.
Dateline, Lake Worth. Okay, so this one seems to have spread actually beyond the confines of the Sunshine State lately, but I'm sure it will become a permanent behavior soon. When the camera footage from a doorbell camera was reviewed by the owners, it revealed a startling and unspeakable act. It clearly shows a man approaching the camera and then proceeding to lick the lens.
Okay, now we're in there.
And evidently, one lick was not enough, friends, as the chap takes a step back, ogles the lens, and then repeats the licking maneuver. Again, and again, and again, and one more again. Evidently, the man is still at large, and charges, whatever the hell they might be, are pending.
Tasty.
Dateline, Indian River County. A man who thought he was 140 miles away from his actual location told deputies he vapes THC to, quote, get himself ready because Jesus was returning. That's right. 23-year-old Carlos Guillen of Port St. Lucie was approached by deputies after they were called to the Vero Beach outlets off State Road 60. Deputies found Guillen in the driver's seat of a parked vehicle. The inside reeked of alcohol, and in the passenger seat was a half bottle of Hennessy cognac.
Nice.
As well as a cup which appeared to contain the same booze in a cup holder. When asked for his driver's license, Guillen handed the deputy a vape pen containing THC. Deputies said Guillen thought he was in Tampa, nearly 140 miles away from his actual location of Vero Beach. He told deputies he was enjoying his time in Tampa and that he was vaping the THC pen, quote, to get himself ready because Jesus was returning.
Okay, so is that when they hit him with the mental health hammer?
I think he was hammered enough, Mr. Keynes.
What the fuck, Florida?
Yes. And on that inebriated note, we'll grab our clown shoe-sized cross trainers and make a mad dash for the door, but not before thanking our contributor to this edition of Fusebox, Mago Weston, for sterling ideification. And thanks as well to the inter-county man of mystery, Milt Keynes, for technical assistance and so forth and so on.
A pleasure as always. And folks, if you listen to this as a podcast, be sure to subscribe and maybe even give us 11 out of 5 stars or whatever. That would really be great.
It truly would be great indeed. Yes, we appreciate that, and we also appreciate you pushing play, or tuning in, as the case may be, to this edition of the show, friends. We sincerely do. I have been your resting on rented laurels host, Marc Rose, saying, until our next cartoon. Fuse.